fingers. On my table, you see a bunch of kind of random objects. If you think about it, you see a tree branch that just kind of got clipped out of my tree after derecho. A box that had mini Dr. Pepper cans in it, saltine box, a couple of butter boxes, a coil of wire, and a 2-liter pop bottle. As you remember, we have been talking about 2-point perspective. So we are going to continue that discussion today, and we're going to start talking about our current project because we just finished up our discussion on 1-point perspective, where we did a field of tulips in Amsterdam with in the center of our picture, our vanishing point kind of has a windmill in front of it, and all of those fields, all of those rows of tulips are coming out of the 1-point perspective field. Now we are continuing our discussion of 2-point perspective, and we are going to talk about what is the difference between 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective. And the one thing that we know, we can ask questions, and when we ask questions, it helps deepen our thinking of what's happening, makes our mind kind of process, those gears start to turn, and we start to apply it to other areas that we may know about something about 2-point perspective or 1-point perspective, but we've never really put those together before. And we know we have it when we can share what we learned with someone else. And I always tell you, if you can teach someone else what you're learning, you know you really have it. So first we want to look at our anchor chart that shows 1-point and 2-point perspective. And in that anchor chart, you'll see in the 1-point perspective section, it shows one vanishing point. And it shows that when you look at objects, when they're closer to you on the page, to make them look closer to you on the page, they're down lower, up higher, and then they start to vanish to that single vanishing point. So they get smaller and smaller as they go to that place. We know it's just one piece of paper, it's flat, but this is showing perspective and depth in our artwork. And sometimes you see people do art where they'll have a big tree, then a little tree, then a big tree. It just kind of makes your mind not rest. And it's okay if you're planning to do that on purpose, but usually we want some kind of order when we look at a painting. 2-point perspective, then we're looking at this tree, and we're looking at it straight on, and then the rest of the trees are going away from that tree. So there's one vanishing point there, another vanishing point here, and this is our central focus, so they start to get smaller as they get farther away that way, and they get smaller as they go that way. So we'll keep talking about 2-point perspective, and it takes a little while to get used to it, but we're going to look again at these boxes that we have here in front of us, and we're going to look at this butter box. So if I look at this butter box on the outside, I can talk about 1-point perspective, but it's easier for us to talk about 1-point perspective if we look in the box. So if I open up these flaps, and you can see inside that box, this square looks larger than the square clear back here because it's showing you that it's getting smaller as it goes in. And just like we've talked about before, when you're driving down the road, well, your parents are driving down the road and you are watching, you notice that the road is really huge right where you're at. And then if you look far ahead, it all kind of vanishes to one point if you're on a straight linear path. So in 2-point perspective, we're not looking at that one spot. or this one spot, or this one spot. We are looking at a box that is on a corner. So if we have this as our 2-point perspective, we have our main focal area right here. And then if we were to draw lines to finish this picture, we would see 1-point perspective this way and another one this way. So it's a 2-point perspective because our main area is that front center piece. So once we've talked about that, then we're going to also talk about our project at hand. So we watched a YouTube video called Tree Masters, and it's about building tree houses. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do something a little bit different because we usually talk about architecture a little bit and planning and designing things. And I thought it would be really fun to watch Tree Masters because my husband loves that show, so we watch it a lot. And this guy named Pete designs tree houses, and they build them for adults. And sometimes those adults, kids, grandkids, whatever. But the episode that we watched as a 5th grade was Antonio Brown, who is a football player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a design idea that he wanted to turn into a treehouse in his backyard. And he had added all kinds of dream things that he wanted in his treehouse. He wanted a whole wall of glass. He wanted to use steel since he is in Pittsburgh and it is the big steel industry of the United States. Thus, the football team is named the Steelers. So he wanted to use steel in it, and then he added in his dream list. He wanted a football practice field and a full basketball court in his backyard. So in that episode, he had Antonio Brown kind of run down all of his things that he wanted, and then he drew up plans, showed them to him, and then they built and designed and then finished those plans. So what we're doing as 5th graders is we're keeping that 2-point perspective in mind, but we're also talking about that Tree Masters show that we watched on YouTube. And it's linked into our Google Classroom classwork under our assignment. If you want to watch the whole thing, we skipped through and only watched about 7 or 8 minutes of it, but it's like 45 minutes long. So the first thing I asked students to do is I want you to take a big piece of paper, and on one side of it, you can fold it in half, and then I wrote really big so you can kind of read it, even though I'm writing kind of sloppy. This was just for me, but I thought, well, I'll show it to you. Brainstorming list of what do you want in your treehouse. I wanted a kaleidoscope roof. I don't know if they probably have one somewhere. Of stained glass and kaleidoscope that would be working so I could push a button and see a kaleidoscope shining down on the floor. And then I'd push another button to open that kaleidoscope so that I could see the sky. That would be a night sky or a daytime sky, or it could just be clear so I could shut it and have just clear glass also. So that's a pretty fancy thing, and I'll have to check to see if something like that's invented, but I think it'd be really cool. That's on my wish list. And then my big wish list is a reading area with a library of shelves on each side of a window seat with lots of cushions and a big space to sit and drink coffee and tea and sit in front of a fireplace and just read, because I love to read and I really never have time to read other than things for school. And then I wanted bunk beds for my grandkids, and then I added 3 more today, a bathroom, a small kitchen, and a zip line to my house. So when you have your list of all the things you could dream of, just write them and write them and write them, then post it to our Google Classroom, and we'll share those with each other and talk about those. And then on the other side of that piece of paper, you're going to draw a rough sketch of what your treehouse is going to look like. Well, I started this a couple of weeks ago and really haven't had time to work on it. But you see up here is my roof that could be used for a kaleidoscope or just clear glass, or it could open and have a night sky or a day sky so I could look out. And I even think this would be cool to be glass, but I don't know, we'll see. And then this is my 2-point perspective. So see that that corner of my design is right here. So the reason we're doing this project is so that we can show a 2-point perspective. So you're gonna have the corner of the main part of your treehouse right here, and then it's gonna slowly finish here, and you don't have to do it quite this neat. I decided, since I don't have a lot of time for doing these kind of things, I would just do a rough sketch, and then I would start using marker to make it my final copy. So I guess since I did that, if you want to do that, you can. But you can see I have my window seat, but you can't see in, but you see that's my window with flowers, and then this would be where my bookshelves would be on the inside, and this would be where I would sit, and the fireplace would have to be on the other side of it then. And I was kind of deciding what I wanted it to be like. And I have a ladder going up, and it's gonna go up through the floor. And then I just started this other building that they're gonna connect somehow. And this is kind of my rough sketch of this. And when you get this done, post it, we'll talk about it. When you get a rough sketch done, post that, we'll talk about it. And then next week, we're gonna start talking about what interiors of buildings look like with architect view and their symbols and the things that they use. So on this side, I just kind of started thinking about it. So you can see, I don't have my little hole yet where my ladder is gonna come up right here. I was even thinking about really turning it into a spiral staircase, but this is a rough sketch and we can always change it. So this is the overhead planetarium with the electric glass opening, stained glass, clear glass, opens all the way. And here you see the walls, like you would see on a blueprint from an architect. And I have bookshelves, a window seat, it talks about how big it is, the other bookshelf, and then this is open and stairs, gonna go down into this main living space. Here's my fireplace. And I was thinking about putting another chair over here. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough room for that. That's just gonna be my room, I guess. And then in this part of my treehouse, I can have that bunk bed room and a bathroom kitchen area. But then down here, you see that I have glass garage door with a remote opener. So this is all a glass garage door that opens all the way up to this deck. And this would be kind of a fun space for my family and grandkids especially, and for me to just have a place to go. So those are those steps that we're gonna be doing. I can't wait to see what you choose. So today is the day that we're gonna find out what is Mrs. Miller doing with the boxes, the wire, the bottle, the tree branch, and the answer is, in 5th grade art, we are talking about architecture. And specifically, we've been talking about 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and now with 2-point perspective, we are talking about a treehouse. So our students have started a unit where we watched a video about Antonio Brown from the Steelers getting with a treehouse company and designing his own backyard treehouse with all of the things on his dream wish list. So we are just kind of making our fantasy. This isn't going to be something that we're really going to be building. This is just kind of our fantasy of what we could do if we had all the resources and all the technology and all the materials that we'd ever want. So I made my brainstorming list, and it's not very long. I mean, you guys should really take some time in doing this, but I've been a little bit busy in the last few weeks. So I just have a few things I want you to think about. I want a kaleidoscope roof with stained glass that I push a button and it opens so that it's clear and that it's totally open so the wind and everything can come in. Or I can push another button and it's just clear glass. And I can also see the night sky, the day sky. And I think I want to add to that kind of a planetarium type of feature, because I'm thinking in my rough draft that I'd already showed you, it's kind of a rounded roof. And I started thinking about the planetarium, and my favorite dude at Grantwood AEA, Christopher, that has trained me in how to do an inflated planetarium, that as soon as we can do that at our school, we will be doing that. So then, most important to me, besides that kaleidoscope roof, is a reading area with bookshelves, a window seat, cushions, and a fireplace. I want built-in bunk beds for grandkids, and of course, toy storage, a bathroom, a small kitchen, and a zip line to my house. So these are my wish list items. And like I said, the students are going to be making all kinds of wish list items. So I then made a rough sketch of what I want my tree house to look like. So I need a tree, and we're doing a 2-point perspective. So I'm looking at that corner of that box that we had talked about. And there's my window for my window seat area. Here's my dome top. And we're gonna have, I was thinking about a ladder, and then in the last video I said possibly a spiral staircase. And of course, the other part of my house that has the bathroom, the kitchen, that bunk bed room, and who knows, maybe a couple of hidden things, we'll see. And a way to get in and out. So when you look at a tree house, you just think it's basically just boxes. If you're just designing a normal house, and we're talking about 2-point perspective, so it's easier for us to think about it if we think about squares or rectangles. So I am going to create my house, and I have to decide, and this is why I have the pop bottle. This is gonna be my kaleidoscope roof, and I decided I'm gonna have the whole thing clear glass so that I can see the night sky, the daytime sky. I can open this up and have fresh air come in. I can shut all of this with a black thing that's I'm gonna say it's gonna be right here and then kind of shut all the way around. And then it can be a planetarium, and we can have it, you know, open or closed or dark or light, all kinds of things. So that's why I saved this. This is going to be on the roof, and I'll cut it later, but it's basically gonna be on the roof of the first part of my house. So I'll cut that all down, build that part, and you know, it's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be exactly the way I would want it to be. And it's certainly probably not gonna have the technology of kaleidoscope opening and shutting and all that kind of thing. So this is my basic top box, and then I'm gonna be able to cut it down, make it the size I want it. I'm going to find a way to make my tree stand up, and then put my treehouse parts in here and maybe down here. And then I need a big part of my house that'll have all the rest of it. So I'm thinking that down here. And this mini Dr. Pepper box, you know, if my grandson watches this, I'm gonna be in trouble, because at my house, he uses this for a bat cave for his Batman Lego stuff, and he's 3. He'll get over it. I'll get him a new box with maybe some pop in it. He gets one every now and then. So that's what these are gonna be. And then my wire is going to be the way to get to this part of my house with a spiral staircase instead of a ladder like my design shows. And then I'll have to have another way to get from the little house with my favorite things down to this part of the house. So I'm gonna have kind of a built-in area where it's kind of like a skywalk that you can just go down in there with steps. And then when I look at the back of my plan, we're starting to talk about how architects make things look like something that a designer can use to build. And you see all kinds of stairs there, whoops, and they're gonna be nice and wide, and they're gonna go down into this big part. Well, I didn't have a box that was quite that wide, so mine's gonna be longer and narrower, but I think it'll be just fine. And I could always switch, but I think the Saltine box and the mini pop can box are about the same size, so that's not gonna matter. and then a deck off of the back, and I think I'm gonna try to use popsicle sticks or something to build that deck. So students, you are going to be taking a tree branch, and we'll talk about ways that you can make it stand up. I have Quikrete, I have plaster of Paris. You can put like a coffee can or some type of bowl or container here. I think I had a plastic coffee can for mine, and then I filled it with Quikrete for the actually plaster of Paris, the one that's over there on my counter, so that now we can make it stand up and be sturdy so that we can start building our house. So those are the things we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show you step by step how I'm going to build this. Hang in there. See now, I have that upper level. It's going to have the window seat and my bookshelves. Fireplace is going to be on one side. The other side is going to be the spiral staircase coming down. I'll put the little things in the steps later. It goes down into here, then it goes into the building so that it connects those two in this part of the house. And then I need to get that level. I happen to have a level in my toolbox, so I'll go get that. And this then is the main part of my building that will have the kitchen, the bathroom, and remember this side down here is where I'm gonna have that glass garage door that opens, and then I'll have the deck off of that. And that's how those two are gonna connect and how it's gonna be in the treehouse. So you guys start thinking about yours, start constructing it if you'd like. And this is something you're gonna work on at home and bring it in when you get it done. Or if you need some help, you can come in and do it with me. But during our class time, we're gonna be working on our architecture design and how architects draw blueprints and things like that. And we will be talking about our tree houses. Happy building, everybody.